Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. I think most people who know me know one thing about me is that I don't shy away from sensitive subjects. I don't hold my tongue, even when I probably should, for my own benefit, when I see something that needs to be called out. If I see something I think is wrong, I have no problem addressing it. I don't mind calling out other gun channels when I think they're doing something detrimental to the gun community, and I don't mind calling out the gun community itself when I think it is in the wrong. And that's what I'm going to do today. I am not just calling out a lot of gun channels today, but I'm calling out the gun community as a whole for something that I think is a real injustice and something that, like I said, is detrimental to the community as a whole. It seems a lot of us have a lot of notions about what people should be like. You know, and if they don't believe certain things or do certain things or fit certain roles, that they're just not welcome in the gun community. And that's really dangerous. It's really not good for the longevity of the gun community, and it really doesn't win us any points in the eyes of most people who are more and more woke every day. And they look at us and go, look at how they're treating that group of people. And I'm talking about a group of people that may not fit what we consider to be gender norms. They may not do the things we consider that, are the things that manly men do. But they're still people, and they can be valuable parts of the gun community. And I'm, of course, talking about men who carry 9mm. Now, I know a lot of you right now are just, some of you are just being offended and disgusted because, man, it carries 9mm. And other ones out there are like, getting real defensive, like, hey, I got nothing against men who carry 9mm. I just don't want them rubbing it in my face all the time. Well, that's bigotry, and that's bullshit. You obviously have a problem with it, or you wouldn't care if someone was carrying 9mm. You wouldn't make a big deal out of it. I know some of you out there are like right now saying, well, I don't mind if people carry 9mm, but I just don't want them being flaunting it because what if my kid sees it? What if my kid's somewhere and he sees one of these 9mm carrying men and goes, Daddy, why is that guy carrying a mommy gun? And I have to explain it to him and blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? That's part of being a parent, explaining things like that. Sit your kid down, talk to him, explain to him. Timmy, or whatever your kid's name is, I'm assuming a lot of his kid's probably named Timmy. Timmy, sometimes men do things that you wouldn't consider a masculine thing to do. That gender is a societal thing. Society assigns certain norms to certain genders, to certain sexes, and that is what gender really is. There's a big difference between sex and gender. Yes, he sexually, technically, he's a man. But as far as his gender, he doesn't do the things you would think a man should do. He carries 9mm. And if they say something like, well, someday maybe I'll carry 9mm, you just explain to them that if they do that, you will try to still love them, but no promises. And then, you just let it go and hope it never happens again. They never mention it again. But using these prejudices to attack people who carry 9mm, to make them feel like less than a man, just because, like I said, they don't conform to what you consider a normal gender trait of a male that would carry a gun. It's wrong, and we need to stop doing it. We need to start welcoming these people into the gun community and not ridicule them, not make them feel less than. I mean, of course, they are less than, but it's upon us as being the more advanced and more masculine group to make them feel like they're not less than, even though, well, they are. So we need to be more welcoming to these people. We need to treat them better. Now, I know a lot of you out there say, well, it doesn't matter to me because I don't even know anyone that carries 9mm. I've never even met anyone that carries 9mm. I guarantee you have. I guarantee you there's men that carry 9mm in your family. I guarantee you when you've been on the front line of that gun rally or on that march on DC or whatever for our gun rights, there's been some people in that crowd or maybe standing right next to you that are carrying a 9mm. A lot of people who carry 9mm are quite passable. You would not know. They spend their life hiding behind that, oversized Hawaiian shirt so that you don't know their shame. They'll tell you things. They'll go right along with, that 40 sure does kick, don't it? Or, this 357 Magnum's weighing me down. I can almost hardly walk in a straight line. They'll say things like that to try to fit in and draw attention away from themselves. They'll even accuse other people of carrying 9mm. Like, look at that guy, but he's got a 9mm strapped to his waist. They'll do things like that. So you've seen people carry 9mm. You know people that carry 9mm. It might be your best friend. But I guarantee you fought side by side with them for your rights in this country. So don't pretend like, I don't know any man that carries a 9mm, because they're all over. Like I said, some of them just are very passable. Now, some of them you can tell from looking. I mean, it's pretty clear. They'll wear like I love my Glock 19 t-shirt or something. And, you'll notice that most people try to ignore it. They just try not to make eye contact with it. They try to just pretend like nothing's happening. And then they go home and they talk shit about them. And they know that. What we need to do is get to a society or a group or a time where our community is more accepting than that. Where a person could stand up in a crowd and say, I have a penis, but I'm carrying a Shield 9mm. And the crowd would say, and what's your point? That's how woke we want to be in the future. Because like I said, we're doing ourselves a real disservice. And here's another thing. Just because that man is carrying a 9mm, that doesn't mean that he is completely different than us. A lot of people that carry 9mm, they still like to shoot other guns too. Some of them are bicaliber, tricaliber. It doesn't mean we have to necessarily put them in one bin. I think that we should avoid labeling people simply because they carry 9mm. Even though it is hard not to, because they are so obviously weird. But it's upon us, like I said, to be bigger than that. And we need to start doing that. It doesn't matter if we agree with them. We don't have to make the same choices they do. We don't have the same circumstances they do. And we shouldn't judge them until we've walked a mile in their holster. Maybe real guns hurt their wrists too much. You don't know. Maybe they were born with a calcium deficiency and their bones just can't handle a real caliber's recoil. I like to believe that 9mm carriers is not a choice. They're born that way. These are not societal choices they're making. They are actually living their truth, their true genetics that makes them recoil sensitive, or maybe they get skittish when they hear a loud noise. That's something they're born with. They're born that way. We need to be respectful of it. No matter what they want their pronouns to be, he, him, they, them, pussy / Susan, I don't know. Whatever they want to call themselves. I don't know how these people think. I, of course, carry big calibers. Big calibers. I'm not one of these people. But I just wanted to speak up because I think we do ourselves a disservice in the gun community when we, just because, like I said, they don't conform to societal norms and do the things a man should do, we get to decide that somehow they're not manly because of that. We need to remember that gender is a societal construct that we force upon people. We say, just because you have a Y chromosome, you should be able to handle a relatively decent-sized gun. It's just not always the case. And we need to be accepting of that. And we need to be grateful that we don't face those challenges ourselves. But like I said, we need to strive for a community where when someone stands up and says they carry 9mm and they still have a penis, that we're okay with that. That it seems like, what's the big deal? And then we go about our business and we accept them as one of our own, even though we know they're a little bit sus. All right, everybody, with that being said, I want to move on to a new segment on the show where I talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about. Something someone's asked me about that doesn't really fall into any of the categories we really usually discuss. May not be gun related at all or First Amendment related at all. And I'm going to call this new segment Yankee's 2 cents. Now, in the very first episode of this new segment, I want to call out this notion that's being floated around on the left about how the Biden administration is considering giving $450,000 apiece to migrants who were separated from their children. And people have asked me, what did I think of this? Mostly in the live chats. And I want to say, I think it's absolutely absurd. In fact, it's insulting. When we're living in a time right now where a lot of Americans are struggling to feed their children, not get evicted from their homes, find a way to survive, that you're thinking about giving illegal immigrants $500,000. You know, that's like 20 years salary of a lot of people who live here, probably like 100 years salary for the ones where they come from. And I don't think it's right. Because yes, I don't believe in separating children from their parents if you don't have to. But sometimes you have to. That used to be my job when I worked for CPS, deciding when you had to. But here's the thing. These children, it's not just like, oh, they were minding their business and the U.S. government stormed in and took their kids. They were committing a crime while their children were with them. If I strapped a baby Bjorn on my chest and went in with my baby and robbed a bank, and then I got caught as I was leaving, I wouldn't get to say, you don't get to separate me from my baby. No, they would take your baby, separate you. And when you got out of prison, you could try to get it back, but no guarantees. So I think this is just tone deaf to even float something like this. Now, I'm going to say right now, I don't know if this is something the Biden administration is actually floating, or is it just some crazy senators or congressmen, because fucking congressmen are fucking crazy. Half of them are just goddamn loony. Maxine Waters, or whatever her name is, and Sheila Jackson Lee, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, all of them, whether you like them or not, they're fucking bonkers. So they'll say stuff like this. Doesn't mean it's ever going to be policy. But if this is something that's actually being suggested as policy, it is so freaking tone deaf and just stupid. Oh, these people that got separated from their children while committing a crime with their children present, or when they sent their children across with just some strange adult that they paid money to, well, we owe them a fortune because of it. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. I mean, how, like I said, tone deaf are some politicians? Especially with what people are facing nowadays. Are you supposed to turn around to your base if you're a Democrat or a Republican, whatever? You know, the guy who used to have a job in the steel mill and now he's barely getting by, or the black family who's trying to get ahead but just can't do it. And you're going to turn to them and go, I know you're struggling, but hey, those people, they got their kid taken away from them for a while when they committed a crime. You know how many people there right now are probably grandparents caring for children of their children that are in prison right now? And you're going to sell that to them? It's fucking ridiculous. It's stupid. And if anyone ever said, any politician that they can get on tape saying this on camera should just immediately resign, as far as I'm concerned, because it is so stupid. And here's another thing. A lot of the reasons the kids have still been separated from their parents and haven't been able to be reunified with them is two reasons. One, parents didn't come. They just sent their kids across. And they always say, oh, it's so my kid will have a better life. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's just, I can't afford to feed my kids, so I basically sold them to somebody. So that's one of the reasons. And another reason is some of them came with their children. The children got caught. They got caught and released. But instead of going and claiming their children, they disappeared into society. And they don't want to come forward because, hey, I'd have to go back to Mexico or Guatemala if I came back and claimed my children, because they'd know who I am, where I'm at. So I don't want to pretend like, oh, they're all victims. But I also don't want to pretend like they're all horrible people. But they were committing a crime and their child was present. Or they sent their child with someone who committed a crime, smuggling them across the border. That doesn't entitle them to a fortune of our money, taxpayer money. Who do you think's paying it? Politicians aren't like, oh, we're going to take up a collection. It's going to be our taxes that pay that. And it is the most ridiculous, tone-deaf bunch of bullshit I've ever heard. And I think any politician that ever gets caught saying something that stupid should immediately resign. All right, everybody, that's our show for today. Before I go, I want to remind everyone that we're still doing the rifle giveaway. So go on over to tymppistolproject.com, use the Nominate a Veteran section on the webpage to nominate a veteran that you think deserves a special thank you. And then come Veterans Day, we'll draw one lucky winner. They'll receive an AR-15 from Storm & Norman Gunworks. So go ahead, go over, nominate the veteran you feel needs an extra thank you, and wait till Veterans Day, and we'll see if they won. And with that being said, I just want to go ahead and sign off here by saying, remember, always carry and stay safe until I see you again.